Well, I want to go over something, just a quick overview on something, and just goes to show you can do stuff without going by the book, and it can last a lot longer. Now, this I didn't have to do too much repair on, very little actually, on the floor. I thought it was in perfect shape, but there was a couple little holes. But it's secure, it's painted, all that crap. It's going to get more stuff. But say, for instance, I had to replace a full floor pan. What I would get, instead of getting something like this, steel, and I'm not for buying any of these freaking replacement, I'm not talking about restorations here, I'm talking about making the damn thing solid, usable, and cheap, and last longer than original. I'm not too much for using steel in a lot of cases because it rusts. This was under this carport and it never got rained on. It just got a little dampness, and they already got surface rust, even though the metal was treated from the factory. What I would do is I would get some 14 gauge or 12 gauge aluminum, and you're wondering how the hell are you going to attach aluminum to the steel body. So in other words, this is an overview, okay? Because I've done I did a little bit like this before on an older truck, and I did steel in the Jeep just last year. But I would cut out a piece of cardboard just like what you need for the floor. Then you cut out the floor for whatever shape of the cardboard that you need. Use the cardboard as a template, and I use spray paint. Like, you put the cardboard over the metal that you're going to cut, you spray paint around the cardboard, and you got a nice outline after that paint dries to use with a jigsaw. The jigsaw works great as long as you hold that jigsaw down firmly and keep this metal from vibrating. It works great with a little lube on there, okay? Now, the problem is, how do you join aluminum to steel? And I guess you could weld it if you're fancy. I don't know how to do that, but 3M and panel adhesive will work. Make sure the metal is ground down and chemically clean. And you know what I chemically clean stuff with? Starting fluid, like that right there. Just Wally World crap. Even though it says it has upper cylinder lubricant, I've never seen anything I cleaned with that starting fluid fisheye, even if it was paint. Fisheye is from like grease or oil. There's like so ridiculous minimal amount of upper lubricant in that starting fluid. It does chemically clean. Or you can use carb cleaner, but starting fluid's cheaper. Just watch out you don't freaking light a match, But the thing I would use is both panel adhesive and structural rivets, and overlap it about that much. Overlap the aluminum on the steel that much. These structural rivets are 1/4 inch. The way this works is just, I don't know if people probably know what a freaking rivet gun is, but these are just blind rivets. You just put them in here, and you open this up all the way, and it slides in. And as you close this handle, these two handles, this pulls in, and it mushrooms out this head. That's what secures it on the opposite side of the metal, and this breaks off. And you got to really, these are strong as shit though. These are probably better than high quality spot welds in a lot of cases. It depends on what it is, because you're not going to break this. You're not going to break this damn thing. No way in hell. But if you had that plus 3M panel adhesive, you do not have to get the special applicator, which is like $90, $80, the gun. You can get it if you want. I never bought it. I just put this down on some steel, mix it up with a little tiny spatula, and mix it up really, really good. You got a long work time with this stuff. It's not like Bondo where you got 15 minutes max or something. It's not like Duraglass. You got some work time with this stuff, and it takes about 12 hours to dry. But if you have your metal overlapped and the aluminum's like a little tub in there. So say, for instance, water sits underneath that rug. I'm talking about up north when you got the brine with the salt. It ain't never going to rust. And it'll be strong as shit. Between this stuff, which they glue quarter panels on. Most of the quarter panels glued on with this. Even if you get in an accident and a quarter panel's crumpled up, that stuff still holds. That's how strong it is. If you combine this with that panel is going to be stronger than the original factory. So I just want to point out a couple other things too. Other things you could do, you could shape, aluminum. I would get at least 14 gauge, not as far as 10 gauge, but maybe even 12 gauge. It was a truck for the floor. I wouldn't be screwing around. I'd make that floor like bomb-proof, man. No, in other words, something they'd sell in the dealer as an option for like $1,000. Yeah, the floor never rusts out again. So say for instance you gotta like make a little lip on the pan you're gonna make in there, because it's gonna sit in there down a little bit, and you're gonna be going along this edge. All you gotta do is put the metal on here, just tap it around. That'll bend it. If you want to make, excuse me, if you want to make a rib in there, you just put a pipe over this, or you just tap this in. You put a pipe over this, put the plate over it, tap it in. With this East Wing freaking, I don't know what is this, a 3-pound sledge? I use the hell out of this thing. It always moves the metal. I never used a torch hardly, because I hardly ever had one, because I had to borrow one every time. I never owned one. And you can also make 2 or 3 patch panels that fit in there, and do the overlap with the rivets and the structural rivets and the panel adhesive, that 3M panel adhesive, part number 08115. The thing is, it ain't gonna go nowhere, man. It's not gonna go anywhere. It'll last longer than the original. It won't be restored. If somebody go under there and say, oh, that's not original, who cares? Who cares? It lasts longer than the original. And you notice, even on the factory, see this plate? This was spot welded onto there. So if you got to make it like the exact original, you get this and you spot weld that onto that, and you do that. And you can kind of make these ribs anyway. You wouldn't need to if you got thick enough metal. But I look at it like, if you're where the water accumulates, say in here, you want to have it where you be riveting up to this. And those are blind rivets. In other words, you don't need to get on the opposite side like a bolt. Like, say for instance, you're going to put a bolt through here. You're like, how do I get the other side? Put a wrench on there, just going through the inner rocker panel. No, it's blind structural rivets. You don't need to be on the other side. It'll rivet it right to this. And then after use the panel adhesive and the structural rivets, go over it with seam sealer so no water can get into here and get to the steel where it's attached to, and truck bed line it, and that thing will last a million years. I think it's a great idea, because I don't see people doing this. I don't need to do this, but if I found it, well, there isn't any bad panels on this car, like really bad. If there was a floor, like say for instance this floor in the back was like gone, I'd be doing that. That's what would be done. I would not be buying some bullshit from Taiwan made out of steel and then having to spend umpteen hours of shaping anyway. Screw that. But this might be a good idea for cars that aren't worth restoring. And this car, I'm not restoring this stupid thing. I mean, this thing is what, I don't even know what these cars are worth. Even with the factory 4-speed, it was like really pretty, and like had new seats in it and new carpet and new dash cap, and paint was nice. I don't even think it would be worth $5,000. So what the hell? You think I want to put $5,000 worth of paint into a shit? The hell no. But I'm preserving it. And that's why I'm bringing out this method, because you can actually fix cars that ain't worth fixing on a cheap, make them safe, make them go, use them for 10, 20 years. And, so what? Somebody says you got a fucking Le Mans, you got a freaking Cutlass, you got an old Mopar freaking, whatever. Hey, so it's bolted together with freaking rivets and panel adhesive, and it's got aluminum in it. Who cares, right? Who cares? So, just want to put this out as a quick overview, because, I don't have an example to do on it. I did the Jeep a little bit. Last year I had put a nice thick 10 gauge steel panel in there with bolts and welds and all kinds of shit. And I just was thinking about this, and I said to myself, I should put this out here, because here's the part number. This stuff is pretty expensive, but you don't need that applicator gun. I just take these two things, I put them in here, press it against my chest, put it out even, make sure they press in evenly, and it goes out I use a spatula, mix the shit out of it. And man, this stuff is strong. This is not JB Weld. This stuff will flex, it won't crack, It's on there. Make sure the metal's ground and it's chemically clean. This stuff is locked on. Then if you're using that too, oh, it's bomb proof, baby. And then if you're using freaking like 14 or 12 gauge aluminum, it's rust proof. So anyway, and you can put some sandbags in the floor for explosive ordnance if you're going through some bad areas of the town or anything too. And the other thing is, if you have a Tesla and you can't weld on it, one of those $250,000 Teslas, this is how you want to fix it, with 3M panel adhesive and rivets. Because if you weld on that car, you're going to short circuit about $50,000 worth of freaking electronic bullshit. Just kidding. They're going backwards on technology, not forward. Keep the old stuff rolling.